Aaron Ross is the author of Predictable Revenue, often referred to as the sales Bible in the world of Silicon Valley. And here are his 5 steps to thrive in sales.
If people get, and trust me, with kids, I've learned too, in myself, if something comes too easy, you take it for granted. It's just different than customer service. So you can be sort of so attentive to customers that then they start to assume that and take it for granted. But I think, in this weird life level where we want instant success, we want to make more money, we want to be more famous. And the thing is, like, if it comes in this weird way, if it comes too easy, you don't really appreciate it. So in other words, a lot of your life happiness is defined by what you grow up with. And if it's easy to say, hey, we don't appreciate all the food and water we get because we grew up with it. But if you lived in most of the world where you don't have lots of food and water, you would be incredibly grateful for just being in your shoes right now. It's like, it's just words. So you don't change your happiness through thinking, really. You change it through experiences. And the struggle, when I went to this basically 28-day desert survival trip years ago, where you're out with like a knife and one set of clothes and, no sleeping bag, no fire. And so the first few days we get no food, right? So say the world's best banana is really simple. First, you don't eat for 3 days and then you have banana. It's like the most amazing thing you've ever eaten. So it's this weird paradox in life where happiness also comes from being unhappy. It's like that lack of something and then you get it creates more happiness. So I don't know, like the older I get and the more I know, the less I feel like I know. But I will say is that a lot of people in sales, a lot of people in business, in our culture, we get comfortable with what we're doing. Like, comfort is the enemy of growth. And we're tired and we're stressed out and we've got kids, and it's hard to take that decision to change things, to get uncomfortable, to take the new job or more responsibility or new company or another kid or whatever, or getting married if that's scary to you, whatever that change is. But to grow requires to be uncomfortable. It's like, by definition, there's a thing that you're scared of or nervous about jumping into. But that's probably what will drive you towards more personal or career growth. Right? So in other words, that's a whole section of the new book. It's that comfort is the enemy of growth. If you're always comfortable, then you're not growing. And with companies, the faster a company grows, the more things break. So to some extent, to be able to grow faster as a person or company requires you to be able to deal with more chaos and more unhappiness sort of day by day. I write about 4 core roles. There's inbound lead response if you have inbound leads, outbound prospecting, closing new customers, and account management or customer success. In your business, you might have 3 core roles. You could definitely have more because you can have lots of different types of closers or lots of different types of prospectors, enterprise versus mid-market. So the principle of the way you apply it is about your business. How it works is, what needs to happen and how do I have more types of jobs in sales so people can do fewer things better. There's a lot of people and a lot of people listening who are going to be at a company and they're like, my boss or this company is never going to, do this. And here I am in my sales job and I don't, I got to prospect because that's just my job is today. So whether you're that kind of salesperson or whether you're an entrepreneur and there's one of you or 3 of you, and what you start with is specializing your time, right? You have to block out blocks of time for whatever it is you're not getting to. So if the main thing you're not getting to is prospecting, or if the main thing you're not getting to is calling on and talking to your current customers, whatever that is, so you block it out. So if it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 2 to 4, for me, for example, now I have 9 kids. Writing a new book is impossible when you have 9 kids, but I was able to do it because I blocked out Wednesdays just to write. And it took me a while, but I blocked out a whole day. So block out time, have a buddy if you can, right? An accountability buddy, and just have some weekly goals or daily goals. It's like adopting a new diet or some other kind of life change. You need to hold yourself accountable. You need to have some goals. You need to have some structure so you can focus on it. Prospecting, for example, you can't do that in 5 minutes at a time. You need like 90 minutes, an hour or 2 hours in blocks. But that's the way you begin, even if you can't have other people do it for you. There's this paradox where if you're in a sales job, you can have a lot more predictability if you're in a current sales job. I guarantee. So however that looks to you, whether for most companies or for most salespeople, if you have more predictable leads, that will lead you to more predictable sales. Because that's usually the growth lever, and that's usually the source of a lot of the unpredictability is, I don't know how many appointments I'll get this month. So that's usually the place to start. So in other words, you can make your current job more predictable. But there's this weird thing where if you want to make your career more predictable, how I say it creates it you it requires I think chaos to make your career predictable, because you can't, like you said, you can't predict where these leaps will happen. Something happens and suddenly there's an opening and you get promoted, or someone recruits you. So in that case, it's really the best you can do in your current job and to keep learning. I mean, I think of what it's easy to get to lose sight of is what interests you, what drives you, and what creates the long-term career success are things like learning and relationships. How much are you learning day to day, week to week, month to month? Are you, meeting new people, or are you building stronger relationships? Are you developing an expertise that you're known for? Like, those are the things that can get lost in the day-to-day hustle, just making quota month to month. So whatever you need to do to not lose sight of relationships, learning, and expertise is going to help you with that, the chaotic career progressions that come in fits and starts. When you have these salespeople who are doing everything, right? They're doing their own prospecting, and then they're managing their own sales cycles, closing their own customers, often managing their own customers after that with a book of business, right? Because that was always what people hired. An owner would hire salespeople who could bring in new customers and manage them. What would end up happening is once in a while, someone could do all that. But for the most part, for most people, it's just too much to juggle, like doing their own prospecting. So maybe they can prospect well, but as soon as they get busy with customers or signing new customers, they stop prospecting. Or then they get a bunch of customers who they're managing and they stop prospecting and signing. So they just end up doing lots of things not very well. So what I've seen is companies, when they're building a team of salespeople, they would have a few people who could do all that, because there's 1 out of 10. I'm just making this up, but it's a small number that could juggle all these things: prospecting, closing, managing customers, and do it well. But it was rare, and so most people struggled. And what happened is, and I've been probably the number one proponent of this shift and helping inspire it, is when you specialize your sales roles. So salespeople shouldn't prospect. Well, with the caveat that they should prospect to a small number, like 5 or 10 opportunities, like special opportunities, target accounts, or relationships. Most of the bulk of the prospecting or cold prospecting should be done by a junior person in sales who's focused on that, can do it really well. So what happens is when you specialize and you have prospectors who prospect, closers who close, and account managers or customer success that are managing customers, it works much better because people can do fewer things better. Prospectors can get great at prospecting. Closers can be great closing, and so on.
Hey, hope you enjoyed that one. Click up here to watch another 5 Steps to Thrive in Sales video. Click down here to watch the full interview where all these clips came from.